Okay. In the previous session, what we did is we discussed about the basics of security, privileged access security. Okay. We know CyberArk. It is a tool for privileged access management. It is a PAM tool. But what is this privileged access? Why do we need to secure this? Why do we need to manage this? That's something we did in the previous session. Okay. Privileged access or privileged account, this will be any account having higher permission on a system. You have a server, you are having an account there, and using an account, you are modifying the things, you are adding new things, you are deleting files. So that means you are using a privileged account. Okay. Another server you are having one more account there, but there you cannot modify or edit. You can just go through the contents of that server. That means you are having a normal account. So that is the difference. Normal account, it cannot modify, it cannot add or delete. Privileged account, it can add, modify, delete, whatever you want to do, it can be done through a privileged account. Okay. When it comes to security, when it comes to CyberArk, only the privileged accounts from your organization will be taken and they will be secured within CyberArk. Why? Because the privileged accounts, they are having higher permissions, and if they are attacked, if the attackers get the access to it, they also can get into the system and they also can get away with anything they want. They can modify, they can delete, they can edit, whatever they want to do. Okay. With normal accounts, they cannot do anything. So not mandatory to secure them, but privileged accounts are very important. Okay. This is basically like the detailed discussion on this was done in the previous session. I will ask Srinivas to share the recording with you, Chinmay. For today's session, we start with CyberArk's architecture. Okay. We know CyberArk is a tool that is there for the security of privileged accounts. Okay. But whenever we talk about this tool, we always think that, okay, CyberArk should be one component. We install it on a server and we secure the accounts within it. That's what people usually think. When we say CyberArk, they think that there will be a one tool within which the accounts will be secured, the users will be using it, and then they will be accessing the servers. But what actually happens within CyberArk is a multi-component thing. We have different components. Every component is having its own functionality. Okay. And when you combine all of them together, only then you will be able to have the CyberArk. Okay. First component of CyberArk is something we call as Vault or Enterprise Password Vault. Okay. Also known as EPV. A very common term that you will see within CyberArk, EPV. So if you get this, don't get confused. It's your Vault. Vault, also known as EPV or Enterprise Password Vault. Okay. Now, vault is a very common term here. Can anyone tell me that where do we have vaults and why do we use it?
In banks for safety or at home for safety?
Correct. Vault is basically a storage that within which you'll be securing your resources. Okay, whatever you have, the precious resources. Correct. You have it in your homes. You have it in the banks. Okay. There you're securing your things. Okay, the physical things, physical resources. This CyberArk's architecture, it is also having a vault, and this is basically a digital vault. A digital vault that won't store any physical thing, but it will be storing your privileged accounts, the accounts that are sensitive. Okay, for privileged access security itself, we have the vault, we have the CyberArk. So what is going to get secured within it? The privileged accounts. So basically, this is a repository for all privileged accounts from your entire architecture, whatever accounts you have, that will be onboarded here. For your policies. Okay, now what happens that when we have CyberArk, it's not only a storage system. Okay, usually in banks, what do we have is we just get a storage and we keep our resources there. Okay, CyberArk is a thing that is not only for the storage. It is a thing that is there for the privileged access management. So it will be managing your accounts. And how will the CyberArk manage your accounts? By defining rules on them, by defining policies on them. Okay, policies as well, it gets stored into the vault. Okay, after that we have logs. So what happens that without CyberArk, whatever users were doing, that they were not accountable for their actions. They were using the accounts directly. Their IDs were not getting mapped with their actions. Okay, and that is why for that particular issue, CyberArk creates logs for every single user that is logging in and that is using the account. Logs will get stored into the vault because this is a repository. Recordings. So whatever users are doing and users are doing, that will be recorded as well. And the recordings will be stored into this vault. Config files. Now, as I said, within CyberArk, we have different components. Different components will have different functionalities. They'll have different parameters defined on them. You have multiple integrations with CyberArk. And files related to all of these things, all of the components and the integration, that as well gets stored into the vault. Okay, basically whatever you want to keep, whether it is your account, it is the log, it is the policy, everything will be kept within the vault. Okay, that is the only storage you have within CyberArk. Is that clear?
What do you mean by recordings? Is it like
Mm.
Teams recordings or something like that? Or
No, it is basically what happens that let's say a user he gets into CyberArk. Okay, he uses the account from there and he initiates the connection. Okay, there what happens that whenever he initiates a connection, CyberArk will start a screen recording. So whatever the user is doing on the target, that will be recorded entirely by CyberArk. And whenever he logs off, the recording file will be saved and it gets stored into the vault.
okay. And
So
these recordings files, these are all XML extension?
no, MP4.
MP? MP4. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So that's how you get the things, right? Also, one more thing because yes, Chinmay and Himanshu, we were not there in the previous session, in the demo session. So I'll show you one thing here. Just a minute, I'll be sharing my entire screen. I guess I'm not sharing it. Okay, is my screen visible?
Yep.
Okay. So what happens that let's say we have a user. Okay, we have a user and we have a server here. This is a Windows server, let's say. Okay. On this Windows server, we have a privileged account. Okay, a privileged account is created here. Password is XYZ. And this is an admin who wants to log into this server and perform tasks here, perform modifications here, troubleshoot here, or add new users here. Anything has to be done by this user. Okay. How will he log in? How will he get into this server? He will launch a remote connection. Okay. For the remote connection, what he does is he launches a remote desktop connection client. Connection clients are basically softwares that are used to connect remotely to a server. So the user will be doing the same thing. He will be launching this connection client on his machine. He defines the IP wherever he wants to connect. He defines the credentials of the account using which he wants to connect, and he connects to the target. Okay. After connecting, he'll be doing the things, performing the tasks. Okay. And then he logs off. That is the usual process. If you don't have CyberArk, if a user wants to connect to a server, he will be launching a connection client, defining the details and connecting to the servers. Okay. But what happens that this process, launching the connection through a connection client, it includes a lot of risks. Okay. What risks do we have here? Shravani, you were there in the previous session. Do you remember that?
Hacking.
Sorry, Chinmay is Shravani or Shamjit is Shravani? Like, is
Yeah,
this
yeah. Chinmay and Shamani both.
okay? Both of you have joined from two IDs?
No, no, only one ID. I
Okay,
think mine it is showing as Chinmay.
yes. And who is
Yeah.
Shamjit?
Uh, it's me actually. I joined today.
Okay, okay. I thought that Shravani is Shamjit. Okay, yeah, Shamjit. So, sorry, yeah, Shravani, tell me. So, you were there in the previous session. Tell me, what risks do we have with this?
Like they can hack easily the privileged account.
No, like that is an issue, okay. But exactly what happens here that when a user connects through a connection client, okay, it connects here, whatever logs will get created here, it will show that privileged account has done all of these activities. Why? Because the privileged account was used to log in. So whatever account you use to log into a system, logs will show up for that account. That this account is used to do all of these operations, all of these tasks. Okay. But what user uses privilege account, you will never get that. Okay. What user is behind this operation, no details about it. So this is where we have one of the problems. That if a user is using a privileged account, if he's doing some activities, he should be accountable for their actions. Okay. Whatever is getting performed, the user should be accountable. But with this process, no user will be accountable. They can get in, they can do whatever they want to do, and they can log off. Why? Because there is no way to track their IDs. Okay. So this is one of the risks that you have with your existing users, with your members itself. Attackers getting the access, that is another risk. That will also be done because um, the password here is very much exposed. Every user is having the password. So yeah, you can lose that. But this is also one of the risks that you will be having in this particular scenario. Okay. I guess that was clear for everyone. What thing was followed before? Okay, this was the process that was used before. User connecting to this connection client, and through this connection client, he was launching the connection to the target machine. Because we had problem with the connection client, that's why CyberArk will be implemented here. And now, instead of using a connection client, users will be asked to connect to the CyberArk. Okay, within CyberArk, the account will already be onboarded because that's why we have the CyberArk form to onboard the accounts, to secure the accounts. So the account is already onboarded here. Users will get in here and users will use the account from here. Okay, that is the basic scenario. That is the basic idea that how CyberArk works. But if you talk about it in detail, then CyberArk it includes multiple components. Vault is one of the component that is the repository of CyberArk. Okay, so let's say now this server, you have it here. Okay, now the Windows server is here. Privilege account is still onboarded within it. You have a user. Okay, before CyberArk, he was using the account directly. Now, because we have CyberArk, now because we have Vault, and the Vault is the repository, so this account will be stored into the repository. Correct? That is the repository of privilege account. So whatever privilege accounts you have, that will be stored into this repository. It is stored. Now what will this user do? He will launch a connection to the Vault, use the account from here, and then connect to the server. Okay. What are you achieving with this? Because user is going through CyberArk. So whatever he's doing, he logs in here, CyberArk creates an entry that user one logged in at this point of time. He uses this account. Again, CyberArk will be creating an entry that user one initiated a connection using this account to this server. Okay. And on the target machine as well, whatever the user is doing, everything will be monitored by CyberArk and there will be log for all of the operations.
Actually, I have a doubt.
Yeah,
So I use CyberArk in my organization, so where we can copy the password for a particular admin account from the CyberArk, right? So
okay.
when we copy that password and log into a server, that using the RDP, so still that will get monitored.
No. Um, it will only get monitored if it is getting launched through CyberArk. Okay. If in your architecture you are having this case that they are asking you to copy the password and connect and directly in that case, it won't get monitored.
Yeah,
There,
so we can connect through CyberArk as well, but we can also copy the password and use RDP, right?
right.
Yes.
And
That's
there, what do you have? Like in those situations, what organizations usually do is they assign one password for one use. So let's say right now you want to use the account, you want to use that account directly. You logged into CyberArk, you copied the password. Okay, you used it, password will get changed. Again, when you try to copy it for the next time, you'll get a new password and you have to use it like that.
yeah.
Okay, so that is the case. Any further questions, anyone? Okay. One more thing here that, all right, we know that users they connect to CyberArk and they use account through it. But users connecting to the world is not correct. Why is this not correct? Because Vault is the repository. Vault is having access to a lot of things. Vault is having all of the privileged accounts. Vault is having all of the logs. Vault is having all of your policies, recordings, everything is there. And if the users, if they directly go to the Vault and try to access the account from here, you're exposing the data to them. They get in here, they get access to everything. So instead of providing security, what are you doing is you are exposing your data to the users. Yes, things will be monitored, everything you do that will be tracked by CyberArk, but still things are exposed here. CyberArk is not about exposing things. It's about managing the access, it's about controlling the access. Okay, and how is that maintained? To maintain that, as I said, that we have multiple components. So yes, we do have Vault. Vault will be storing the things. But for the users to use, for the users to access, we have a different component that we call as PVWA, Password Vault Web Access, or PVWA. The next component that we have for the CyberArk. Vault was the repository. PVWA, it's a front end UI. Okay, basically a web portal for which the users will get a URL, they launch the URL, they log in there, and according to their access, according to their authorization, they get the details. Okay, for example, um, I guess you have your account on Gmail. So what do you do there? You go to Gmail, gmail.com, you log in there. When you log in, you get the mails that you have sent, you have received. When I log in, I will be getting my mails I have received, I have sent. Okay. So how is this possible? All of us are going to the same portal, but getting different details from there. Okay. This is because gmail.com, it is only a portal, an interface where the users will be asked to go log in. In the backend, that interface will be communicating with its database. Okay. In the backend, this interface will be communicating with its database. Whatever you have here, whatever you have on the database, it can be retrieved by this interface, but what it will be doing, it will first check for the authorization of that user, check that what things are accessible, and it retrieves only those information. Okay, so that's how controlling of access, filtering of data will be done. Everything is there, everything is secured, but users won't see everything. They'll see the thing only for which they are having the authorization on CyberArk. Okay, for example, let's say there is a user, he is having access only to this privilege account, only this, nothing else. No other accounts, no policy, no logs, no recordings, nothing else, only one account. Whenever he logs in, like whenever he tries to get in here, PVWA will immediately go to the vault. It will first check for the authentication, whether this user is correct or not, whether the credentials are correct or not. If the credentials are correct, PVWA will check for the permissions, what things are accessible for this user. It will find out that this privileged account is accessible. Only this will be retrieved and it will populate here. Nothing else, no other data, no other information will be here. All right, is that clear? That's how the issue you were having on the vault, issue of getting your data exposed, that is prevented with a PVWA. Okay, and for every user, he will be having his specific access, his different permission on this CyberArk's architecture. According to that, he'll be getting the data. If you have an auditor, auditors will need the access to the logs, to the recordings. So when they log in, they get those things. If you have CyberArk admins, they need to access the accounts, policies, config files. So when they log in, they'll get all of these things. Okay. Whatever the type of user is, whatever authorization he's having, things will be retrieved accordingly. Okay, that is the second component of CyberArk. Any questions in this, anyone? No
So,
questions?
so we
Yeah.
will be doing all the administrative part through PVW, right?
Correct. Everything that has to be done, onboarding of accounts, defining a policy, a rule, checking with the logs or the recordings, modifying something on the config files, everything will be done from the PVWA. Using an account, everything. Okay. Whatever you do, that will ultimately get stored on the vault because that is the database that's having the things stored. Okay. PVWA never stores anything. But for the things to be done, you have the PVWA. Okay. Basically, you get different sections for every single thing. You have a section for privilege accounts. You'll have a section for policies. You'll have a section for logs, recordings, config files. And according to your authorization, you will be getting different tabs available on the PVWA. Okay.
Can we directly access the vault without the PVW?
Yes, for that you need remote access to the vault. You can do that. You can initiate the connection to the vault server and connect to it. That can be possible, but vault is something that is kept isolated. So only few users will be getting access to it, not everyone.
The logs, everything will be stored in the vault, right? I mean,
Correct.
so if you want to troubleshoot something related to that, so you will have to log into the vaults, or
No, logs are retrieved from the vault to this PVWA if you see. Okay. Yes, for some of the things, for some of the parts, you will need the access to the vault. And for that, you will get the remote access to it. You will be logging into the server directly. But mostly things, 90% of the things will be done through PVWA. Okay. Next thing we have here is Central Policy Manager, also known as CPM. Vault was a repository, PVWA is the front end user interface. CPM is a component that is responsible for password management. Okay. A component that is responsible for password management. What is this? What happens here that within CyberArk, what are we doing is we are securing the accounts. Securing the accounts as in securing the passwords only. Passwords are sensitive. We don't want them to be used directly. So we are onboarding them. We are vaulting them. Okay. Let's say you secure this account, privilege account with the password XYZ. It's onboarded like this. It's the same password, the static password for 30, 60, 90 days. Okay. If you have things like this, if you're keeping the password static, then again you have a risk of getting it exposed. Okay. Whenever we have accounts, it should be governed. It should be managed by a tool. And for the management, you should also keep on changing the password. Again, this is a very common practice. If you see for the banking portals, if you have an account there, it asks you automatically after every 1 month or 2 months that you should change your password. CyberArk as well, it's working with all of the passwords that you have in your entire architecture. CyberArk, it won't ask you to do that. CyberArk will be doing it automatically. What you have to do is you just have to define a policy that after 30 days or after 15 days, the password should get changed. Automatically on the 15th day, CPM, because this is the component for password management, CPM will be changing the password. Okay, now this can be more frequent, this can be after every 5 days, every day, every 2 days, whatever you want, you just have to define a policy like that, and CPM will be executing it. Okay, to define the policy, we have PVWA, we go there, we have a section for the password management frequency. We do it from there. Whatever you define, it will go to the vault. CPM will be getting the details from the vault and it will be executing it accordingly. Okay, whatever the case is, let's say you want one password for one use. There as well, password change is involved. CyberArk never asks you to do it manually. It will automatically doing that part with this CPM. Okay, what you just have to do is you just have to define a policy for change frequency. How often do you want this to be done? And you also have to define a complexity that if the password is going to get changed, what should be the complexity of it? You do it automatically for all of the accounts. You have thousands of accounts, 10,000 of accounts. For all of them, the passwords will be changed. Okay. So that was the second component of CyberArk. Sorry, third component of CyberArk. Any questions, anyone in that?
Is there any other policy that we will define in the policy manager, only the password?
No, we have some more operations that this CPM will be doing. When we cover that part, cover this component in detail, we'll be discussing about all of the operations. What are them? How are they triggered? But for now, majorly the CPM is for password change.
Quick question. This central policy manager is a front end UI or it's a back end?
Backend.
Okay, thanks.
The only UI you have is this PVWA. Here you will be doing everything, defining everything, and the components will be working accordingly. You define a policy for CPM that after 15 days password should change. CPM will perform that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Next component and basically the last component that we have here, it's Privileged Session Manager, that is also known as PSM. It is a component that is responsible for session management. Okay, a component that is responsible for session management. What is session management? Whenever a user he launches a connection, that is something you call as session, and managing that is what PSM will be doing. Okay, what comes within session management? The first thing will be there is monitoring. So if you see the logs are there on the vault. To access the logs, you do it from PVWA. But logs are getting created by a different component. Okay, it's the PSM that will be creating the logs, audit logs. Second thing is recording. So as I said that screen recording will be started by this CyberArk. So that screen recording is done by the PSM. Again, when the user is active, the screen recording will be going on. He logs off, screen recording gets saved onto the vault. And whenever there is an auditor, he wants to audit things, he'll go to the PVWA. PVWA will retrieve that detail from the vault and it will show up here. Okay. And the last thing is isolation. Okay. So to isolate the target server from any bad script, any malware, this particular component privileged session manager is responsible. Okay, monitors your sessions, whatever user is doing, that will be monitored. Records your sessions, whatever they are doing, a screen recording will start for it, and isolating the session from any bad script. Okay, how it works and where is it involved? So basically what happens that if you have a user here, user will go to the PVWA. This is the UI. So they'll interact with the UI. They'll go to the URL of PVWA. On this URL, they'll define their login credentials, their user ID, whatever it is. Okay. Once they define their login credentials, PVWA will immediately take that and it will go to the vault. On the vault, ID will be verified, credentials will be checked. Once it is verified, then permissions will be checked. What things are accessible, what things are authorized. Whatever is authorized, as I said, let's say this privilege account is accessible. So only this will show up, nothing else. Okay, PVW retrieves that, populates it here. User will be allowed to get into the PVWA. Okay, and this is done within milliseconds, microseconds, you can say. You click on sign in and you are into the PVWA. But in the backend, all of these things are happening. So yes, you will see the account. But one thing that CyberArk does is CyberArk does not expose the password. Okay, because the user ID is already authenticated, because authorizations are already checked. So users won't see the password. They'll see the username of the account, privileged account, and instead of the password, they'll see a connect option. Okay, now they click on connect. As soon as they click on connect, they will be asked to define the IP address. Where do they want to connect with this? They will be defining the IP of this server. After defining the IP, CyberArk automatically in the backend will be defining the password because that's not available here. In the backend, the password will be defined, will be fed up by this CyberArk. Connection gets initiated from here. From here, it won't go to the CPM because it's a backend component. It's involved only in password change, password management scenarios. From PVW, it will go to the PSM. Why? Because PSM is responsible for managing the sessions. And because the session is initiated, it has to be monitored, it has to be recorded, and it has to be isolated. Session will go to this PSM. It will start all of these operations, monitoring, recording, and then it will connect to the target. So now, whatever the user is doing, everything is getting monitored, everything is getting recorded by the PSM. Okay, and whatever issues you had, users are not accountable, you are preventing them because here whatever the user is doing, logging in, entry getting created, using this account, again an entry getting created, connecting here, again an entry getting created, and again whatever he's doing on the target, that as well is getting monitored by CyberArk. So this accountability issue is not with us now. Second issue we had is password was exposed. So in direct connection, every user had the password, they were using it directly. It was very much exposed. Here in CyberArk, password is not showing up. You have connect, users click on connect and they connect to the target. Okay, that is the thing. Okay, this is how CyberArk works. This is the entire workflow with all of its components and its functionalities. Any questions, anyone in this? Any questions, anyone? Okay, so now this is the basic architecture. This is how the connection will go. But to manage this workflow, to manage that what user will access what account will get onboarded here, what account will follow what policy, the workflow, that how the things will go, how the things will show up, everything will be managed through the PVWA. And that's what an admin does. Okay. For the next sessions, what do we do is right now the basic architecture is covered. So you know that what is CyberArk, its components and their basic functionalities. From tomorrow's session, we will be starting the theory of these components in detail. Okay, we start with the vault theory. For the vault theory, we discuss about it in detail. What is vault, the requirements of a vault, how it functions, the backend tasks of it. Okay, this will take around 3-4 sessions. Once that is done, you'll get the virtual server on which we'll be installing the vault. We'll install it. We'll cover the part. What do we have within a vault? Once that is done, we move forward. We start with PVWA. We start with its theory and then the installation and then the operations within it. Okay, and that is how we move, discussing the theory of one component, installing it. Okay, any questions, anyone?
Well, discussing and installing both on the same session or a different session?
Sorry.
Like discussing a theory and installing of that both on the same session or different sessions?
Different sessions. That will take time. As I said that for Vault's theory itself, it will take 3-4 sessions to get completed. So once the theory is done, after that, the deployment will be done and then we discuss the things within it. So it varies component to component. PVWA's theory is not, we don't have a lot of things within it, but for the PVWA's operations, we have a lot of things there. So yeah, it varies.
Will you cover, any troubleshooting, that kind of scenarios in this session?
Sorry.
So will you cover any daily kind of troubleshooting, that kind of scenarios also in these sessions?
Yeah, going to cover the troubleshooting part, um, and the auditor's part as well. Like that's not your role, but that will be covered additionally. Troubleshooting, backup, the disaster recovery thing. How do we take a backup? How the disaster recovery wall will take over if the primary system is down. Okay, integrations, some of the integrations will be covered as well. Okay, I'll ask Srinivas to share the syllabus with you. Okay, so any further question? All right. In that case, that's it for today, if no questions. Recordings for today's session you'll get within some time. Okay, you can revise through it, and from tomorrow we start with the word.
Thank
Okay,
you.
for everyone who is not having the recording of the previous session or the demo session, I'll ask the team to share that. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a nice day.
Thanks. You too. Bye bye.